Okay, Greg, we're about to hit the mean streets of New York City with the Georgia Gray murder case. Are you ready?
I certainly am, Mary, because there's one thing I like. It's a radio drama where the hero wears a hat and a shoulder holster and views life through world-weary eyes. So I've got great hopes for Broadway as my beat, the Georgia Gray murder case, and I'm just hoping that it delivers in spades, particularly Sam's spade.
Let's go.
Broadway's my beat, from Times Square to Columbus Circle, the gaudiest, the most violent, the lonesomest mile in the world.
Broadway's My Beat, with Larry Thor as Detective Danny Clover.
The carnival scream rises high on Broadway, carried high on plumes of neon light, and its shape is of many things: the metallic anguish of a trumpet shriek, the futile beating against closed doors, the laughter, bargained for, bought, paid for under the winking girl on the spectacular. Broadway's scream rises, shatters into fragments of glitter, prowls through the city, and finally touches you. Wherever you are, it touches you. For me, it was a phone call. A girl dying, it said, from a jackknife in a dime a dance palace on Broadway. Come to it, Danny. Maybe you can grab yourself a free dance. The welcome committee is out, the pale girls with the scarlet streaked across their mouths, and the restless scarlet-tipped hands playing in the spinning lights, reaching out for you. Someone called, said a girl was hurt. Where is she?
Me, I called. Sure you don't want to dance with one of those girls first?
Where is she?
You're square. You're a square policeman. Come on, I'll take you to her. Georgia's the neat type, don't like to spoil the fun. That's why she picked the lonesome lounge to die in. You got it picked out where you're gonna die. You should. You really should. The lounge with beaded curtains. With Georgia.
Get out, go dance.
It's all right, Danny.
You? You, Georgia?
Me, Danny. Fran can stay. She's my good friend. Okay if she watches me die, isn't it?
Who did it, Georgia?
A dancer. Keen dancer. You should have been here for his mambo dancing. It was a show.
Who? He stabbed you, Georgia. That makes it all right to tell me. Who was it?
He bought $5 worth of tickets. A man like that, you feel you know. Don't ask his name. It spoils it.
With this knife?
Yeah. While dancing. I'm keeping it for a souvenir. Make sure it's with me in the coffin, huh, Danny? Promise.
You're a long way from home, Georgia. What brought you here?
I like it here. Come here a lot. It's peaceful. The man blows the bugle so peaceful.
The crowd, Georgia? Will the boys in the crowd stab you because you're not liked anymore?
How can you talk when he's... Listen to him, Danny. Listen. A girl feels young again with music like that. A girl feels...
After that, the place got cluttered up. People started to come into the lounge. Policemen with notebooks. A woman in a tweed suit with a press card in her hat band. A couple of men with a stretcher. The only thing the doctor picked up on his stethoscope was a trumpet blowing what is called the blues. Because there was no heartbeat from Georgia Gray. Because she was dead. Find out why. Go now to Mott Street, where it intersects an alley whose name no one remembers. Climb 4 flights of stairs and wonder briefly why the quality of sound and light in a tenement is like nothing else in the world. And walk a corridor where mice and men live together in perfect tolerance. And stop at a door.
Stand in the light a little bit more so I'll know who's...
It's Danny Clover, Benny.
You coming to check? I'm okay.
May I come in?
Sure. Yeah, I'm okay, Danny. I'm okay. Except for the stomach. It hurts when I press it.
You've been behaving yourself, Benny?
Well, since I got out of the hospital, sure. I'm beading now. They taught me to make things out of beads when I was resting in a ward. Belt buckles and ladies' accessories.
You know why I came here, don't you?
I ain't a stool pigeon no more, Danny. I got cured of that, too. I'm a beater now.
Who killed Georgia Gray?
I'm a beater.
How long since you checked in with your parole officer, Benny?
Oh, Danny.
What about Georgia?
You know as much as me. Georgia was close to Nicky Gammon. You know that. Bought his shirts from him. Ran down to the drugstore for him.
What's the word on Nicky?
The crowd ain't happy with him, Danny. Oh, Danny, leave me alone. I got an order from a lady down the hall for a love bracelet. I got to deliver it to her there or I'll be breaking my contract.
Nothing else, huh?
So help me, Danny. Nothing. Of course, Nicky Gannon. I'm a beater now.
Well, you, huh? Off your beaten path, aren't you, Danny?
Inside, Nicky.
Don't strong-arm, Danny. I was going to invite you in anyway.
Georgia Gray, Nicky. She's dead.
Word came to me how you closed her eyes. I wish it had been me.
Maybe you got there ahead of me, Nicky. Maybe you went dancing, saw Georgia in a place you never thought she'd be. Killed her because she was getting away from you.
Oh, you're tired, Danny. Awful tired. No one gets away from me, not even the dead. Come on into the den. I want you to meet my mother. If she'll be hurt, I don't show her my friends.
All right, Nicky. I wouldn't want her to be hurt.
You'll wish yours had been like her. Just wait. Mother, look what I brought you, Danny Clover.
Sit down, Danny. Have a mint. Nicky has 'em made up special for me.
Thanks. Well, special, huh?
Nothing too good for my mother.
It's always been like that with my son. Up to now.
Nicky hasn't been good?
He let his girl die in a cheap place. Dancing with another man for pay, for dimes. That cheapens his name.
You could have stopped it, Nicky?
How could I have known, Mother? I told you.
Don't snap at me, Nicky boy. I'll slap your mouth, wash it out with dirt.
Georgia liked that hole, Danny. I never understood why. She tried to explain it to me about the music, about dancing. Crazy for dancing. Who understands these things in a girl? When she had everything
Everything you gave her. Everything you worked hard for.
You're getting your share, huh, Mother?
The funeral, too, Nicky? Will you buy me one like the one you're buying for Georgia? Let me show you the invoices, Danny. I never knew dying came so high. Inflation, huh?
Maybe it'll wipe out the taste of what happened to her. Where it happened to her.
It's just a maybe, son. Don't build a monument on it. You want to know why they killed her, Danny?
You know, Mrs. Gannon?
They think my son is finished. Done. Used up. They killed a girl to frighten my Nicky boy. And you know what? My boy's frightened.
Who does that to you, Nicky? Your friends? Your boys?
You'll know when you see their bodies on a slab. It'll be in all the papers. You'll save the clippings for me, huh, Nicky?
Oh, isn't she a dream, Danny? I told you. Wonderful girl, my mother.
When I got back to headquarters, there was a file on my desk. The neatly centered sticker on its front cover was typed Georgia Gray. Open it, read it, digest it. Georgia Gray, age between 25 and 29, computed from data gathered from arrests. Hometown, Salina, Kansas. Followed a soldier to New York port of embarkation in 1943, but never caught up with him. So she stayed. Countergirl in a 5 and 10. Then model for ladies' garments. Then nightclub hostess. And 2 years ago in night court, after losing a race with a squad car, she said she'd retired. Because I don't have to work anymore, she said. No, a better reason, she asked? Name linked with Nicky Gannon from here on in. Address Park Avenue. Expenses shared by Fran Holland, who said now she'll have to look around.
First thing I'm going to do is get another roommate.
Did you get along well with Georgia?
She had her ideas, I had mine. Know what I mean?
Tell me.
No, this and that. Georgia was what, a pretty girl?
I'd say she was beautiful.
Yeah, I guess she was very beautiful. Very. But she was ruining it. Ran around, danced, but she didn't enjoy herself. I know she didn't. She only enjoyed herself relaxing here with me.
Something I haven't made up my mind about.
Well, you better make up your mind about it, Danny. Sure. She had all that dough and she lived with a dance hall hostess with me. You know why? Because she needed someone like me.
To run home to her?
Right. So she could have soft hands rubbing the back of her neck. To bring her cold tomatoes when she needed it.
She run often, Fran?
Look, Danny, she was dance happy. That's why she hung around the place I worked. A little bit of music and a guy in a high waistband with 2 strong feet could make her smile like she was happy.
Did Nicky Gannon mind that she stepped out on him?
Why did Nicky care? He used it for a front for his business. He didn't care about her dancing.
Who killed her, Fran?
A man. What else but a man?
What man? Who?
You know what you ought to do, Danny? You know Tommy Chandler?
Nicky's hood?
The padded shoulder that stands near Nicky with his hand in his pocket. Ask Tommy. See how he reacts when you ask him.
You know where Tommy is?
I know where he'll be in the morning. You know where the ducks are in that pond in Central Park? 8 o'clock, he throws them bread. Stale bread. But what do ducks know?
That one over there likes pumpernickel, Danny. Here, give him a piece. You'll make an impression.
We got none of these advantages at city jail, Tommy.
You gonna arrest me, kid? No. Ducks will miss me. You want a piece of pumpernickel too, Herm? Sure you do. You see how Herm looked at me, Danny? Sad. Like he already knows about the arrest. What are you taking me down for?
We'll think of something.
Feeding the pintails in Central Park? I won't be able to hold up the head for the shame. Let's go, kid. That's your squad car over there?
You gonna blush when I say suspicion of murder?
That's been done to me, too.
You didn't come out for a long time.
Georgia. You got me case for that? Huh?
Georgia was murdered. Maybe Nicky Gannon goes, too.
The whole crowd will miss him. I'll tell you something else. Whoever stabbed George ain't gonna be around long either.
The crowd will see to that, huh?
I didn't say that. I just said a prediction, that's all.
Who takes over if Nicky is rubbed, Tommy? You?
Take over what? A backroom poker game for matchsticks? What are you talking about? Look, baby, arrest me if you want, but don't ask me stupid questions. It makes Herm nervous. Here, Herm. Here you are, boy.
Herm looked sad when I took Tommy away from him. All the ducks looked sad. For a minute. Then they found a new love with a stale loaf of bread, swam away, screaming for it. Tommy looked back over his shoulder, stopped to call them a name, got shoved into the squad car. But on the way down, a code call, a woman's voice in the police radio. Man dead, she announced with a quiet number. Then she said it plain, in an alley, 4th Street, off 6th. Get there, car 62. We got there.
Mind if I tag along, Danny? Man dead. I recognize from the number. We gotta share these things.
Hold your gun on him, Muggavan. He wiggles a toe, break it for him.
Pleasure, Danny.
Let me through. Let me through. They can't scare you anymore, can they, Nicky? Not anymore. He was propped up against the wall, his head thrown back, his mouth open, like he was trying to tell someone about it. The furtive dog scrubbing for food in the trash, not listening. The small crowd he'd assembled because the blood sighed across his shirt front, but not listening. Watching an alley wind gather soot at his feet. Watching me lean over him. Watching Nicky Gannon. Dead Nicky Gannon.
You are listening to Broadway's My Beat, written by Morton Fine and David Friedkin, and starring Larry Thor as Detective Danny Clover. You'll find Jack Benny in the desert this Sunday night on CBS. Jack and his gang are making a safari to entertain the boys at an air base in Nevada. And for more laughs, there'll be another session with Eve Arden as the gay, romantic, fun-loving schoolteacher, our Miss Brooks, on most of these same CBS stations.
Broadway is wide enough for everybody. Generals in open touring cars, blondes in taxis, and sailors against lampposts. It's the place to come to, for one reason or another. To be a tourist, or get stared at by the tourists. To make a pitch, buy a bargain, get cheated, insulted, or have your picture taken. And end the day with a memory, depending upon what you wanted, what you got, and what you gave for it. And part of the day's memento of Broadway will be the news item. Nicky Gannon shot down in an alley. Hoodlum slain in new outbreak of mob violence. Police seek clues in killing. Especially me and another man, the Sergeant Gino Tartaglia, who had once passed a civil service examination.
And the medical examiner, Dr. Sinsky, reveals the death was caused by hemorrhage in the pleura, parentheses, lungs, closed parentheses. And that is why Nicky Gannon was done in.
Thanks, Gino.
Well, you're quite welcome, I'm sure.
Anything else?
May I?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. You know, Danny, this shooting up an alley brings to mind a case which was solved by Lady Jane Pugh, the ne'er-do-well girl detective from London town.
Do we have to, Gino?
Lady Jane looked at the deceased and flipped her shiny tuppence.
Flipped her what?
Her shiny tuppence. Lady Jane has a lucky tuppence which she flips before she undertakes a case. That Lady Jane.
May I interrupt?
Oh, you're the boss.
Do you have anything else to tell me about Georgia Gray or Nicky Gannon, please?
Oh, indeed I do, Danny, indeed I do. In the murder of Nicky Gannon, Tommy Chandler, our prime suspect, has been released, and without a nickel's worth of bail.
What?
I have said it.
So help me if you're kidding, Gino. Why was he released?
Oh, because another fellow has confessed to the deed. You remember Cozy Barrett? Even at this moment, he is with Sergeant Muggovan, confessing all over the place. And that, Danny, is all the news I have for today. Case is solved, huh, Danny?
Yes, and that ain't all of it, Sergeant. George ain't all of it. Lots of people met with me, then ended up under a sheet in the ice house.
You killed before, Cozy?
Oh, hi, Danny. Come on in. Join the fun.
This is a new kick, isn't it, Cozy, for you? Confessing to a murder?
Well, what's the matter? You don't trust me? Read me to him, Sergeant.
I'll brief it for you, Danny. Cozy says he took a pocket full of dimes to the dime a dance joint where Georgia Gray was. To celebrate the end of a perfect day, he tells me.
You danced with her, Cozy?
Sure I dance. How else I get close enough to kill?
You didn't like the way she danced, huh?
Crazy for it. Dream about it. Who else I dance away my hard-earned dough on?
That buys you her dying, too, huh?
Oh, she gives us insults. And from a foot away at that. But I got close. Eventually I got close.
Yeah. Get on the phone, Muggovan. Have a policewoman sent up here with a portable radio.
Danny, you all right? You've been working so hard. You
got a thing against telephones, Muggovan?
Okay, I'll do it.
What you gonna do, Danny?
Yes,
You got
Muggovan.
tricks with batteries and portable radios to make people talk? I'm talking. Why you need electricity?
Should be right up, Danny.
Hey, you gonna put me away, huh, Danny? To the sound of music, huh? You treat me nice because I'm nice to you, huh?
Killing. A lot of your line, isn't it, Cozy? I always figured you as more of the purse snatcher type, the jackroll kid, the friend a drunk finds in an alley.
Well, I got a right to come up in the world, ain't I? This gives me class, a reputation, the things a fella needs so he can admire himself in the night.
Sure, I understand. Man has to get ahead.
You sent for me, Lieutenant? You want this?
Yes, come in, please. Turn on the radio. Go on, turn it on to dance music. That'll be all right. Dance with the lady, Cozy.
Huh?
Go on, dance with her.
Hey, you're crazy, Danny. I give myself up to you, and you go crazy. There are people like me, honest.
Dance with her, like you did with Georgia. Show me how it was with Georgia.
You know I can't dance, Danny. You know I wouldn't go near a dame to dance with her. They laugh in my face when they see me coming.
You were never near Georgia Gray, were you?
No.
Not even close enough to...
They promised me they'd get me off, Danny.
They said confess, and then when I got off, they'd give me the big dough.
Who promised you all that?
Well, friends, Danny. I got good friends. They promise me things. They call me up and promise me things. You gotta lock me up, Danny, so I don't disappoint them. You gotta lock me up.
Make it come true for him, Muggavan. Lock him up. Now the afternoon was 2 hours old, and the gray had turned into a wetness, a drizzle that hung skirling in the air before it touched the pavement. But the citizens didn't mind getting wet. It was a sight to see. The funeral procession wasn't very long, not like the good old days when a gangster's death took up a mile of Broadway. Not like the good old days at all. None of the mourners walked, they all rode. And the wreaths were wrapped in cellophane, which not only protected the snapdragons from the rain, but it was more sanitary. I went along because I'd known Nicky Gannon for a long time. The rain let up a little when they lowered him into his grave. And none of the mourners stayed, not even his mother. And I wanted to talk to his mother. Mrs. Gannon?
Hello, Danny. You want to ride back to town?
I wanted to tell you how sorry I've...
You talk like that, you don't ride with me. Come on. My son was a hoodlum. Why should you be sorry for him?
We've talked together. We've had a beer together. That's the reason.
You cry. Not me.
Whatever you want. He was your son.
My son got scared. A man gets scared, a man don't live anymore.
And that's all his dying does to you, Mrs. Gannon?
Look what I've got, Danny. A thug's funeral on a rainy day.
He was your son.
He's dead, Danny. I'm not. I'll think about him. Some things will come up in my mind from time to time that I've forgotten about right now. And I'll smile. And I'll think nice about Nicky then.
Do you know who killed him?
I know.
Who?
I said I know.
The same person who killed Georgia?
If I let you out of the car now, you'll get wet.
You gonna do anything about the person who killed Nicky?
I'm sure of it, Danny.
Sure of what?
It's gonna rain all day. Funny, ain't it? The paper said it was.
In a hurry, Danny Clover?
Yeah, I am. Bother you, mister?
Mm-hmm. But it bothers me more, your unhappiness.
Let's have a good cry over it in my office, huh?
Here in the hallway suits me. Used to drafty hallways, spend my life in them, waiting to do things for unhappy people.
Spreader of good cheer. That's your business at police headquarters, Mr. What name do you spread it under?
Forbes, Consul at Law, my card.
Forbes, Consular at Law. Someone came to you, said I was unhappy. You took the case.
Almost precisely how it happened.
They told you what makes me sad.
Kindly people, they grieve when a policeman throws away a confessed killer.
Cozy Barrett?
It seems to them almost ungrateful. However, they respect your analytical prowess.
You got something I can hang on my wall that says that?
Something much better.
Silver cup, maybe, with an inscription.
Better. An envelope, manila with money. It could take you hours to count.
No silver cup, huh?
Better. The bonus, the killer. The real true killer of George and Nicky. That could bring you so much happiness to a man like you.
Where do I find it?
Where else? Envelope and killer. The Diamond Dance Palace, where Georgia danced upstairs, 1 o'clock. That's this morning. Be there and a smile will grow on your face.
You've brought me true happiness, Counselor. Thank you. Then he walked away. At the end of the hall, he stopped and looked back over his shoulder, grinned at me. Then he turned up his collar and walked out into the street. This was at 7 p.m. Then a walk down Broadway, and dinner, and a double feature on 42nd Street. Then it was time to go. The Diamond Dance Hall was blaring against its time of closing. I walked through it, pushed my way across the floor into a doorway. No one stopped me. Then up a flight of stairs and into a loft littered with old telephone books, cigarette butts, a neatly stacked bundle of year-old newspapers. The only light, the light from the spectaculars down the street, spelling out the evening's pleasure. 40 girls, 40, no cover charge. Up front with Willie and Joe, continuous performance. Chinese food, fried rice, and dancing. And I waited. I didn't wait long.
You here, Danny?
Come on in, Tommy.
Thanks. I brought you something. Here. He's all yours, Danny.
Who is he?
The killer that got promised to you.
Dead?
Uh-huh.
You bring the envelope, Tommy? You bring it?
Sure. Sure I brought. Here. Count it at your leisure. 15,000, kid.
I don't know, Tommy. A dead killer. How am I going to explain a dead killer?
I thought of that, too.
What did you come up with?
Danny, I found a guy on Skid Row. He wasn't doing anybody any good. So I figured he could do us some good.
So you shot him?
With a police positive, just like you carry. Here's the gun. You tracked this killer down, he tried to escape, you shot him, makes you a hero.
That's right. And how many heroes have $15,000?
We're gonna get along fine.
You've taken over for Gannon?
I deserve, don't I?
Yeah, you do. Killing Georgia and Nicky Gannon, sure you deserve it. The courage.
You don't know how much. Had me sweating there for a while that she didn't die right away. Only Georgia was a girl with character. Live and let live. Die and let live. Great girl. Well, I call you from time to time, Danny.
Wait a minute, Tommy.
Get used to it, Danny. I said I'd call you.
Don't go away. You're under arrest for murder.
You practicing being a cop? Don't be a cop around me.
You forgot something, Tommy. I can't be anything else. Let's go.
Because you're pointing the police positive. You got trouble, sucker? It's that way all over.
Don't let me fall!
I got your coat!
Don't let me fall! I don't want to die that way. Hold me!
Yeah.
Daddy, hold me!
His fingers clawed against the sheer stone.
Daddy!
Body twisting. Face tortured.
Daddy!
Pleading for a return to life.
Daddy!
His body hung there below me, out of reach.
Daddy!
Then the fabric that held his life together gave way. And the noise of the street came up to meet him. Killed his scream. When I got outside and walked through the gathering crowd, I remembered something in my hand. Tommy Chandler's torn coat. It's the gathering place of all the sleepless nights, this Broadway, and all the unwept tears. The place to come to, erase what's happened, start all over, make a memory. Then try to forget it, if you can. It's Broadway, the gaudiest, the most violent, the lonesomest mile in the world. Broadway, my beat.
Broadway's My Beat stars Larry Thor as Detective Danny Clover with Charles Calvert as Tartaglia and Jack Crucian as Muggavan. The program was produced and directed by Elliott Lewis with musical score composed and conducted by Alexander Courage. In tonight's cast, Anthony Barrett was heard as Tommy Chandler, Frances Cheney as Fran Holland, Martha Wentworth as Mrs. Gannon, Larry Dodkin as Nicky Gannon, Joy Terry as Georgia Gray, Leo Cleary as Benny Fain, and Junius Matthews as Cozy.
Greg, we've listened to the Georgia Gray murder case from the Broadway's My Beat series. What did you think?
I was swept along by this 1951 tale of taxi dancers, hoodlums, and don't mess with the detectives because it was peak noir. It had everything, and particularly it had a great music track that really gave it some oomph. That sound of a lone saxophone or a trumpet playing the blues in the night was so evocative, sorry, of the the 40s and the 50s in New York.
Yeah, the music was by Alexander Courage. I love that name, by the way. And
Yes.
it's a song called "I'll Take Manhattan." And I was thinking the same thing when I was listening to it, Greg. It's just like this is so much better than organ music because many of these older plays have that cheerful organ music no matter what's happening. So it was really fantastic.
Yeah. Well, as you mentioned that Alexander Courage and Wilbur Hatch composed and arranged the music, and a little bit of trivia about Courage, and a little bit of trivia. Courage went on to compose the theme music for the original Star Trek TV series, while Hatch, his career concluded composing some of the music and conducting the Desi Arnaz Orchestra on the I Love Lucy TV series.
Fabulous.
So those boys had talent.
Yeah, I always think about they had the congas in that. Da, da, da.
Oh yes.
Yeah. It was very cool. Can you hum the theme song to Star Trek?
No, I can't. But I imagine you, as a sci-fi, well, I hate to say the word nerd, enthusiast, can definitely hum it. Have a
You can
shot.
definitely
Go
call
on.
me a nerd. I'm proud to be a nerd and a Trekkie as well. In fact, I even have a Star Trek female uniform. So I won't explain why.
No, please. Your social life is your business.
Indeed.
Can you hum the music, by the way?
Here we go. Da, 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 da.
My God, I feel
etc.
Wait, let me change the channel. No, that was fabulous.
With
so
the little
tuneful.
spaceship flying by.
So tuneful.
This was wonderful, though. I loved this so much, Greg. I know you chose this, and I was so grateful that you did. It not only was the music wonderful, I thought the writing was incredible too. So this is Morton S. Fine is the writer, and
Yes, indeed.
And just beautiful poetic writing. The sort of even the opening line, Broadway's the gaudiest, most violent, lonesome mile in the world. It's just gorgeous.
And in fact, I totally agree. And at the climax there, where we've got basically a police procedural plot building to the climax, where the murderer Tommy is fighting with Danny the detective, and Tommy dangles out the window, and Danny the narrator and the detective has tried to save him, and then there's that line, that script line, his fingers clawed and the noise of the street came up to meet him and killed his scream.
Yeah.
Now that's noir. That's noir right there.
Yeah. It was so cinematic. This it was just absolutely gorgeous. Another line, the furtive dog scrubbing for food in the trash, but not listening. It's just gorgeous.
Yes,
Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. And in regards to the plot itself, now I'm the last person who's going to criticize anybody's career choice, particularly after some I've made. But I do think the character of Georgia Gray and her fellow dime a dance colleagues could have, if they've chosen a miserable profession for paltry pay, petty pay too.
I guess the notion here is that you're going to meet a nice man and he's going to rescue you.
A nice man with a pocket full of change.
Yeah, it was a very sad sort of situation, and beautifully sort of set for the plot. But did you know that the writer went on to do, Morton S. Fine went on to have a stellar career in TV and film? Did you know about that?
I hadn't followed all that up. What are some of the details, Mary?
So some of his shows, like he did I Spy. Do you remember I Spy with?
I loved I
Peter
Spy.
Yeah,
and Bill Cosby. Whatever happened to Bill? I bet
we don't talk about
his
that
reputation.
anymore.
His reputation just grew and grew.
Indeed. The Most Deadly Game. He did The Rifleman, Maverick,
Oh yes,
and The Pawnbroker.
Oh, excellent. Oh, I loved Maverick. Oh, adored Maverick.
Yeah, and that's
Uh,
just some of them. That's just some of the films he did. He did a lot of TV shows and films. So he was a really competent writer.
he was indeed. Actually, just bringing the subject back to Georgia. Well,
Yes.
Georgia, who obviously goes to her reward very early in the story. I was talking about the fact that she and her colleagues had chosen this miserable profession, but I thought even in 1951, getting a cut of 10 cents for dancing for the duration of a song or a tune, that wasn't big money. I looked up some websites about what the costs were in New York at the time, and apparently a can of tomato soup cost 10 cents, bread was about 14 cents, and fuel was between 20 and 30, about 20 and 30 cents a gallon. So, after you pay the people who are running the dance hall their cut, you're not going to have a lot left over.
No, it was a tough life, obviously. So in terms of these the actors in this, did you have any standouts that you really liked?
Oh, I enjoyed Larry Thor, who's Danny. Now, this is going to shock you, Mary. He's yet another Canadian actor, as was Jack Crucian, who played Sergeant Muggavan. What is it about Canadians? Boy, I bet you'll have an answer for this. What is it about Canadians that makes them so appealing in the film and TV industry?
Well, I can't answer that. We are just naturally attractive and wonderful. That's all I can
Wow.
say.
the
We don't know. We don't know why. We just are.
No, we're just countless Canadians. Just in regards to one of the other characters, the comic relief character of Sergeant Gino Tartaglia, that's how you pronounce his name, who was portrayed by Charles Calvert, and Joy Perry played Georgia Gray. There was almost an ensemble cast, apparently, for this Broadway Is My Beat series, which ran on CBS from 1949 to 1954, and the actors were getting regular roles. And I think you can tell. I think that they seem to be having fun.
Yeah, and they know how to work together, it seems. I also really liked Martha Wentworth, who was Nikki Gannon's mother. I thought she was pretty cool in this, and
well, I'm glad you mentioned that character because she was a nice character. I thought nice, strong female character, and you don't often get, as you and I have discussed in the past. There seems to be a paucity of strong female characters in some of these 1940s and 50s radio plays, but she was a tough old girl, if I can put it like that. And there's that great scene, which is very 1951. It's so of its time, when Danny Clover wants to check if a confessed murderer really did do the deed. And so he demands that a female police officer and a portable radio be brought into the interrogation room. Fortunately, as the music begins, the alleged perpetrator named Cozy walks back his confession and said he just made it up. So we're all spared that rather embarrassing, policewoman having to dance with this jerk. But I'm just hoping the police coppers these days wouldn't agree to such a sexist order.
Well, he should have danced with them himself. He was wanted to test that out. But my other, oh, sorry.
Yeah, I thought that too. You mean dance with the
the detective?
The detective and the alleged killer should have
come on, honey. Here we go.
It would add another layer of meaning to the entire plot.
Now, the thing that I absolutely loved about this production, because I loved it on many levels, but the sound effects or Foley in this was amazing. It was like a whole other level of amazing compared to most of the plays from this era. And so I was so enthusiastic about it, I had to look it up. And apparently, they had 3 sound technicians doing the Foley for this production, because they had fabulous, like the duck sound, the footsteps, the doors opening, just fantastic ambient sound. And they were actually credited. Normally the sound technicians, you don't hear anything about them in these productions, but there's 3 of them: David Light, Ralph Cummings, and Ross Murray. So I want to thank those 3 men, because that was a treat to listen to.
I couldn't agree more. That I love those street noises and the footfalls and the cars starting, and and getting back to Tommy and Danny fighting, with presumably the furniture being smashed around, and then Tommy going out the window and all that type of thing. It brings it alive. But as you and I have discussed in the past, it's the great thing about radio, is if you're going to make a television series, with the same theme, there's going to be a lot of logistical concerns. Whereas with radio, it can be done with sound, and it's still believable.
Yeah, absolutely. This production, really, I fell into it. It was wonderful. So yeah, this one was a real treat. The sound effects, the music, the acting, the writing, just fantastic.
Yeah. Speaking of capturing Broadway, one of the script lines there is talking about the neon lights spelling out those unmissable delights of 40 girls, no cover charge, Chinese good fried rice, which presumably, at least it's technically correct, wouldn't be good Chinese fried rice, if that makes sense, but not necessarily made by good Chinese, if you see what I mean, and dancing. So all these things on offer, girls, no cover charge, fried rice, and a quick dance.
Yeah. The thing that it made me think about, though, is how much that part of New York has changed. And it used to be very seedy and dangerous. And, there was a lot of questionable businesses being run in that area. And it has over time cleaned, it's just cleaned up. There's still some seedy things going on, and there's the girly shows and stuff like that, but
no.
Yes, true. But it's a completely different area now. It's got those fabulous huge billboards. It's quite nicely landscaped in certain areas, and just the whole thing is different.
Yes, I've always loved films about New York as well. There's Midnight Cowboy and those sorts of films. And I assume that's the era that would capture just what you're talking about, that sort of rundown, seedy, dangerous, perhaps was it the early 70s in particular?
Yeah, drug dealers, women of the night working the street, it was all going on, and men of the night working the street. It was quite, it was quite a different.
Equal opportunity hooking, if that's
absolutely.
a phrase.
Yeah, so this really brings you back to what that was all about, and is a treat.
After listening to the play, I'm very tempted to book another flight to New York City and once again experience the delights of Broadway. But as you raised earlier on in our conversation, there's that disconcerting comment about from Times Square to Columbus Circle, Broadway's the gaudiest, the most violent, the lonesomest mile in the world. So taking that into consideration, perhaps I'll just stay home and wait for the next episode of the Shiver Show.
That sounds like a good plan, Greg. Good night.
Cheaper one too, Mary. Good night, Mary.